So let's begin. Okay, again people are coming. Hi Ajit bhai. Didn't see you. Okay. So we'll begin as usual with a small meditation. Okay. So just allow yourself to sit comfortably. With your backbone straight. If you're not able to sit, if you're lying down, keep your backbone straight. And gently close your eyes. Begin to settle into your awareness. Allow yourself to be aware of everything that is around you. Be aware of any movement, any sound, any smell. And gradually bring your awareness into yourself, into your body. Being aware of every sensation in your body. And gently be aware of your breath. Allow yourself to be with your breath, observing the incoming and the outgoing breath. Becoming one with the breath. Allow yourself to scan your body from your toes as you're scanning your body. Just allow it to relax, relaxing your toes, your ankles, calf muscles, knees. Let this beautiful feeling of awareness gently go into your thighs, allowing your thigh muscles to relax. Let it go up into your hips, your buttocks, genitals, perineum muscles. Breathing in and breathing out, allowing your body to relax, bringing your awareness into your back muscles, lower back, middle back, upper back, into your shoulders. Allow your muscles of your hands to be relaxed till the tip of your fingers. Let it flow into your stomach. Let this beautiful feeling of relaxation go into your chest muscles, into your neck, to your head, top of your head, forehead, the muscles around your eyes. Allow it to relax. Muscles of your cheeks, jaw, your tongue. If you have clenched your teeth, unclench it. Just observe your whole body being completely relaxed. Observe that as you're breathing, the prana is radiating throughout your body, nourishing itself. Receiving and surrendering to the flow of life. The sacred wisdom within you is always guiding you. Relax your attention away from your thoughts, your mental labels for a few seconds. And in that clear space, recognize what remains is the sense of presence. Observe your own self that exists within. Notice the ease, disown your thoughts, surrender to your breath. Your consciousness is shifting into the presence. Notice the space, the presence, the consciousness that remains. Presence is felt as a sense of I am. Presence is beingness. Presence is here and now. Presence is free from being affected by thoughts, yet includes thoughts in its own presence. Presence is being free from being affected by feelings, yet includes feelings in its open presence. Presence is free from being affected by the mind, yet it includes the mind in its open presence. Presence is free from being affected by the body, yet it includes the body in its open presence. Presence remains unaffected by the changes of life. Presence is itself formless, but expresses itself as all forms. Everything is presence. If experiences are waves, presence is the ocean. Waves consist of ocean. Presence is the universe. Presence is abundance. Presence is soothing. It is endless. Presence is also the creation. Presence is bliss. Presence is truth. Presence is alive. Presence is eternal. Presence is one energy underlying all energies. Presence is the fundamental vibration of existence itself. Recognize the presence as you relax. Gradually, you will notice that presence is always available. Presence is always available with or without thought. Just place your attention on the pure and innocent space of here and now. Recognizing beingness is like discovering the space beneath your thoughts. Like noticing the motionless sky behind the movement of the clouds, relaxing your attention away from your mind is like shifting your focus from clouds to the clear blue sky. place your attention that you exist. Awareness attached to the person will wake up to its true self. Gently bring your awareness into your body, slowly observing your breath, observing how deeply you breathe, just witnessing it. Gradually, when you're ready, allow yourself to rub your hands together, place it on your eyes, and open your eyes. Hi, Nanamai. Is everyone okay? I'll begin the sharing the slide. Okay. So, just being grateful to my parents, grateful to the creator, all my masters, guides, of course, to Sir and Ma'am, who's been guiding me throughout through this rising in love. And this time I've placed Ramana Maharshi's face for a particular reason, which I'll share maybe sometime later, because I had been to his ashram. Okay. I don't know, we have done this before. I don't know, it just felt like writing this today. So I wrote fear of judgment. So everybody has the idea that we have a lot of responsibilities of pleasing other people. So it's just to remind you that, of course, a lot of you all are practicing this, that of not pleasing others. It's not your responsibility to please others. But it's just a reminder that we are not here to live up to other people's expectations. So you're unconsciously asking them for approval. You're asking them whether following your authenticity is something you're worthy of doing and being. So every time you're going to ask people for approval, you just have to keep in mind that, you don't feel worthy about yourself. That is why you're going in for that. So you have to see where this is coming from. So what we can do is that a lot of people judge us. Of course, we also judge others. Even if we say that we should live without judging others, of course, we end up judging in many situations. Even we keep on judging ourselves. Even I do that. But the moment you're aware of that, we can make a shift in that. So whenever we find people are judging us, if you are able to love those people fully through loving them in your own mind, instead of fearing them, you start to experience how you are in a sense beyond them. Because whatever they are judging about you is your own deepest doubts or fears. So this is what we have to look into whenever somebody else is judging. I think few of the healers here would be already knowing that. Okay, this is just Steele Swan's quote. The highest form of human intelligence is not to be able to conceive of what we are. Instead, it is to be able to observe ourselves without judgment. So every moment in our life, if we can keep observing everything, whatever is happening around us, within us, you know, we actually shift or transform in a different way. So every time we experience that we are suffering because we think that something should be in a particular way. All of us have this idea, right? This should be in this particular way. This person should behave in a particular way. If I have a daughter or a son, they should behave in a particular way. Or if it is my wife or my husband, they should be in a particular way. We all have this. But once we shift that perspective, the suffering disappears. This is something we can keep practicing in our life. Some of us must be practicing this already, but still. Okay, our main topic today is manipulation. Okay, so love is like God. You cannot manipulate it. It happens when it happens. If it is not happening, there is nothing to be worried about. This is Osho's quote. To understand this quote, we have to first understand is that actually there is no manipulation happening in this world. When I say that, I know everybody is going to raise a lot of questions around this. Okay, 1 minute. Okay. Today I saw somebody came in. Thank God. Okay. See, when we are aware, we see things which we normally don't used to see. That's what I said before. I normally don't see people when they are coming inside the classes. So today, in the beginning itself, I said, I don't know, somehow I don't see. But when I'm aware, I saw somebody coming in. So that's what awareness does to you. Okay, so the manipulative self actually shatters the divine thing within us. But the manipulation happens only in the mind. What is meant to happen is all that is happening. So interestingly, there is no manipulation happening. Each person is bringing what they need to experience at that point of time to realize something within. So when we say this, actually, I observed this in my own life is when I had issues with my husband. I felt that he is manipulating me. But he kept saying that I am manipulating him, which I never understood. So to understand, so when we are in a fighting mode, we'll never understand because we are only seeing our side and we are keeping on fighting and we are saying that no, you are the one who is manipulating. It is not me. But actually, it is kind of like a mirror. And what is actually happening is that we have created that situation for us to understand something. So that, you know, you kind of, when you are aware of that, when you go into it and when you look at it, when you understand why it is there, you kind of have a learning over there, realization over there. And then you can change or shift that manipulative thing, but the moment you are going to shift the manipulation consciously, again, it is going to be a manipulation. So what we have to do is just be aware that it is the manipulation and you are manipulating or the other person is manipulating, but what is it actually teaching us? I had an interesting session with one of my friend in India, and it so happened that her son, she came in for her son, but then, what example what she gave was that her son was actually abused by a lot of caretakers, which she never realized. And she was also beating him up, listening to the caretakers. Later on, one day, her husband also was beating him up, saying that he killed all the fish in the tank. So they were like quite upset how ruthless he can be. How can he kill all the fish in the tank? It was all floating in the tank. But and he got a lot of beatings. But after a few months or maybe years, I think, when he grew up a little, he was a small boy. He actually shared the incident that, for that boy, he had no friends, and the fish was the only friends. So he actually took the fish in his hand because it liked it. I mean, he liked it so much. And he was showing the room. This is my room. This is the toys I have. You know, he was literally having that friendly relationship. And by the time he put the fish back into the tank, you know what would have happened, right? But the kid doesn't know that it'll die. So, what the kid was actually showing the mother and the father is that this is exactly how you are loving me. Because we don't understand in what environment they are in, and we tend to go and do things which is actually destructive for the child or whoever we are loving. And it is not the love they are experiencing, it is something else. So people actually demonstrate in front of us what we are actually doing in our life. Especially children do that very often. Otherwise, also a lot of things come into our reality in front of us. It just comes. We just have to understand this is exactly what we are doing inside ourselves. So manipulation is also something like that, because we feel that it is manipulation that is happening, but what is happening is actually meant to happen because you and the other person together has brought this reality to experience something, right? Unless you experience that, you're not going to understand whatever the outcome is or whatever you're going to learn out of it. Whereas people normally we say that you should stop allowing others to manipulate and things like that. Instead of that, see where is this coming from. So manipulative energy is something which is actually there in each one of us. We don't realize it. Sometimes it is positive manipulation, sometimes it is negative manipulation. Right now, what I am teaching over here is also manipulation. Right? I am giving you a new perspective. It's a kind of a manipulation. You can call it positive or negative according to how you perceive it. Some things which I say, which you can't accept, you will say it's negative, right? So this is another quote of Osho. Only those people who are capable of being alone are capable of love, of sharing, of going into the deepest core into the other person without possessing the other, without becoming dependent on the other, without creating the other, reducing the other into a thing, without becoming addicted with the other. They allow the other absolute freedom because they know if the other leaves, they will be as happy as they are now. Their happiness cannot be taken by the other because it is not given by the other. I know this is a very enlightened space to be. It is easy for enlightened masters to say, and we were like, we will look at it and we'll say, oh. Okay. But it's nothing impossible. It is like if we keep on practicing this mindfulness, observing ourselves, observing the situations where are we possessing somebody, in what way we are not giving freedom to the other, are they experiencing love when we are doing this, we can keep on observing ourselves, and we can of course observe what we are feeling in another person's presence also. How can you know the other? You can love, and through love, this miracle happens. If you love the other, great understanding arises on its own. Not that you try to understand the other, you simply love the other as he or she is with no judgment. So, okay. What happens is that most of the time, when we are in a love relationship, or even if it is a relationship as such, the love actually disappears. When you give a name or a definition to a relationship, the essence of the love disappears, because somewhere or the other the control comes, the expectation comes, the need arises, all those things comes. That's why just before the class somebody spoke about, yeah, we spoke about the marriage thing, and we said that before marriage it's so beautiful. Why? Because there is no control. You allow yourself to just simply flow into the feelings, expression, receiving, all that is happening. There are no judgments, everything is like blissfully flowing. The flow cuts off the moment you give a name to the relationship, the moment you give a certainty to the relationship. Like, if it is marriage, or if even if it is not marriage, even if it is a friendly relationship also, even if it is a um, brother sister, or a children and parent relationship, because you define it, you think that you need to control it in a particular way, and the love thing actually disappears. The person whom you think you are giving love is not experiencing love. Today, where I have written, okay, maybe as it goes, I think I can share some more. Okay, so let us tune into the uncertainties. Actually, I've been going through a lot of uncertainties in my own life. That's why all these lights are coming. Nothing can be secure, because a secure life will be worse than death. Nothing is certain. Life is full of uncertainties, full of surprises. That is its beauty. Can we all actually accept the fact that when life is full of uncertainties, it has a lot of excitement, a lot of life into it. It is thrilling. Whereas when you think that, okay, it should be, it is set like this, it is going to be like this, I am going to experience like this, then it is already dead, right? It is already dead. It is going to be, it's going to be really boring. If you think of it like that. Okay. So courage is risking the known for the unknown, the familiar for the unfamiliar, the comfortable for the uncomfortable. Arduous pilgrimage to the some unknown destination. One never knows whether one will be able to make it or not. It is gambling, but only the gamblers know what life is. I know for some of us, it is a little difficult to let go of this fact that everything has to be set like this and secured and kept fine, and I know I'm breaking that thought pattern over here. Gradually, you can take in if at all you want to take in, but this is what actually will allow you to grow, because this helps your soul to expand in a different way. Only when you risk that it comes. So life goes on moving with 1,001 uncertainties. That it's freedom. Don't call it insecurity. So there is an example of a man in jail. He has been in jail for many years, and what happens is that one day the warden comes and says that, okay, tomorrow you're being released, you're set free. What happens to the person in the jail? Anybody can say? What is it that he or she will be going inside?
Very happy.
Very happy. Are you sure?
Will be
Because
scared, no?
here, yes,
If he's
because
been,
he has been
he
getting,
will scared.
yeah, he had a roof, he had a place to sleep, he knew what job to do in the jail, everything was set for many years. Now he's coming out into freedom. There is a lot of uncertainty. He doesn't know what he will do, how people will be, what kind of reactions people will have, what job I will do. So much of uncertainty is there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, when we say that we want freedom, are we ready to face the freedom? Is the first question we have to see. When we are given a lot of freedom, there is a lot of uncertainty also. So don't cling to any certainty. Life is uncertain. Its very nature is uncertain. And an intelligent man always remains uncertain. This very readiness to remain in uncertainty is courage. This very readiness to be in uncertainty is trust. An intelligent person is one who remains alert whatsoever the situation and responds to it with his whole heart. Not that he knows what is going to happen, not that he knows that to do this and that will happen. Life is not a science, it is not a cause and effect chain. Heat and water to 100 degrees and it evaporates. It is certainty. But like that in real life, nothing is certain. Actually, this is something which I have learned from Rupert sir, okay? Because he's a man of spontaneity, and he does encourage us to be in an uncertain place so that we experience life in a different aspect, and actually growth happens so fast. This I've experienced as I've been going through his classes and of course his sessions and things like that. And it is amazingly flowering inside, I should say that. Okay. Each individual is a freedom, an unknown freedom. It is impossible to predict, it is impossible to expect. One has to live in awareness and in understanding. This is the paradox of love. This is going to be little tricky to understand. If some of you understand, well and good. You possess your beloved and yet you don't possess. You are with your beloved and yet you are not with. This is the paradox of love. You cannot possess your beloved like a thing. You cannot become a possessor. Yet, in a certain sense, you possess your beloved. And in a certain sense, you don't possess. In fact, the more you love, the more you make your beloved free. In fact, the more freedom you give to your beloved, the more you possess. The more you possess, the less you possess. This is the paradox of love. Actually, it's a fine, thin balance in this, which we can get it in life. The person whom you are loving actually experiences total love inside, because you are not holding the person like this, possessing it. Whereas when you are loving the person, you are actually becoming that person. That's the beauty of it. If you can just observe when you're in love, not only romantic love, it could be any kind of love, being loving your children or loving your parents or anywhere. You actually merge and become that person. So then that is, you are the possessor, but you are not actually clinging or getting attached to it, holding to it. You're letting that person free and loving that person. That creates a beauty inside your heart which actually flowers you from within. And then what you become is love. Like a flower bloom, radiate and be love. You cannot give love to anyone. You can only be love, and the other chooses to absorb you. No one can give you love. Either they can be love and you can absorb it. When I say this, it is like where we say that we are giving a lot of love. But the other person experiences it only when you vibrate in love. So this is what it means to bloom and radiate. Like you become like you are the love within, and you're actually radiating from within, and the other person actually experiences that radiation and absorbs it. So there is no giving over there. You're only being that. This is something we can keep in mind wherever we are, and we keep thinking that if you do like this, they'll feel love. I had a client just yesterday over here. She came and said that I actually took up a big job and I bought a big house over here so that I can lure my husband back to me, because he had gone with some other woman. So she thinks that doing that, or because he likes, because he's a person who can't make money on his own, she thought that this is what, if she offers, this person is going to come back. But is he going to come back? Is he going to come back? No, right? Because he's not feeling the love. He's not radiating. She's not radiating the love from her heart. She's only creating material things for the person and offering it. And that person thinks that that is the way this person is going to feel loved. But that person is actually looking for the feeling, the vibration, the radiation that you actually want to feel from within, which of course would have happened even if she is radiating in love, and if she's offering, yes, it would have happened, but she's not radiating there. So whatever you offer will not be felt as love. So first what we have to become is we ourselves have to become love, and for ourselves to become love, we have to love ourselves unconditionally. And that is creating a lot of compassion for ourselves. It is a beautiful place to be. Um, it is um, it is an awareness you can carry in every moment of your life, knowing that you're so compassionate to yourself. You love yourself so much that when you love yourself so much, everybody around you actually feels that love. You must have noticed that some people, when they come to some of you, I don't know, whoever, some of you, they come and they don't want to leave you. When is that happening?
When they're comfortable with you.
Yeah, why are they comfortable with you? What is it that you're radiating over there?
Love, acceptance, accepting, they feel accepted in your presence, or
They feel like,
radiating love.
huh?
Radiating love.
Radiating love. Yeah. So even if it is acceptance also, there is that vibration that they are actually getting attached to, is that radiation that is you're giving out, because you are being that.
Okay.
Okay, today's next meditation is going to be on control. Uh, okay, so life is very holy and divine. You don't need to force anything upon it. Life has its own order, its own discipline and order. You need not give it a pattern, a discipline, and an order. You simply move with it. It's like a river flowing. You become the river and it takes you to the ocean. So so nothing is imposed by you. So it's today's example itself I can take. What happened was that today, as you all know, that COVID thing, rules changed of traveling over here, and my parents were traveling. So my mother and my father together is traveling. So they had a set idea that yes, all this is done. They made me do all the work before, doing all this online stuff. Everything is done. All the papers were ready and they were all set. And they knew that when they're going into the airport, this is all they had to carry. But when they entered the airport, they said something else and it disturbed them. So when it disturbed them, what happened was that she became very resistant. When that person was in a situation to help her also, she was like, no, we have done all this. This is not the way. This is, you're not allowing what is flowing. So what was flowing was that there was something new that they had introduced some what was that, Jagrada something online. It was another form we had to fill, but it created a lot of ripple, lot of disturbance inside them. I'm not judging my parents, forgive me. It's just that this is the way we face life. If at all we had gone there, or my parents, or even if it is me, if I had gone there with an openness that whatever comes and flows, I flow with it, that allowing would have happened. The person there would have easily helped me to do that work, and it would have just moved very easily, right? So this is how when we keep thinking that it should be in a particular way, and you kind of resist it, you make things difficult for yourself. Once the ego is not there to push and pull to do this and that, when you're completely freed from the ego, a discipline comes to you, an inner discipline. It is not seeking something, it simply happens. So whenever in life we are very observant, if we are not in a pull and push state, you kind of allow yourself to flow. Otherwise, it is always the ego coming in. Actually, today, Rupesh sir also shared something was that when we are in guilt, it's a kind of an ego. It was a very interesting aspect. If he can share more, it would be nice. Sir, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, would you like to speak on that?
Actually, yeah. Actually, guilt, actually today that is learned from one of my sir called Rajshekhar sir. It's not my idea or anything.
Okay.
Actually, guilt is a form of subtle ego. Means whenever we are feeling guilty, we feel that yes, I can do something better in this situation. Actually, that is a form of ego. Because what happened that is meant to happen at that time. That is the perfect. So that we need to embrace it. So the moment we are embracing it, there is no need of guilt. The moment we are feeling that yes, I can do better in this situation, it is a ego. That's what I understand.
Okay, that's really nice. So actually, every moment in our life has to be accepted as it is. That is what it is, right? Because it is meant to happen. Okay. According to Zen teachings, there are three stages. In the first stage, you are certain with the ego. In the third stage, you're absolutely certain with the non-ego. Between the two, there is chaos. When the certainty of ego disappears and certainty of life has not yet come, this moment you should never turn back. You will miss the possibility. So actually ahead there is real security, and it is not against insecurity. Security is vast, it contains insecurity within and is not afraid of it. It contains all contradictions. Some call it insecurity, some call it security. In fact, it's neither nor both. If you feel you have become stranger to yourself, celebrate it. Celebrating your uprootedness, the third stage has come. I have an interesting story to share over here. One of my close ones, actually, mm, her husband has been asking her for a divorce, and they have been in the going up and down, and they were quite okay and things like that. But past 3 years he has been behind her for a divorce, and she was like, I will not give you a divorce, you give me a reason. Then he says, we have understood many things in our life and we have actually realized many things. It's better we divorce and be good friends. Then she was in her own rigidity saying that, why should we divorce? And he kept saying, I still love you, but I need a divorce. She was not able to understand what is happening over there, but she was actually kind of making things secure for herself, thinking that if she gives or signs the paper, the security of marriage will go away. And he is actually doing it, making it secure for him, because she has been threatening him that I will divorce you. So he wants to actually make himself in a safe place that she will never threaten him with that. So both of them are playing a game of feeling secure. And interestingly, after some time, she gets a realization that it is time for her to actually let go and see, and maybe something beautiful will flower out of it. And she took the courage to sign for the divorce. And the moment she signed for the divorce, what happened was that something beautiful happened. They have not been talking to each other, means he has not been talking to her at all, communicating with her at all these 3 years. And suddenly he embraced her, and she experienced something which is beyond words, because that embrace was never there before. And he started talking to her more than normally, connecting with her, talking about family, deciding things about family. So here what they broke was that commitment, or that paper, or that legal thing of marriage, which was actually they thought is the secure thing, was there biggest insecurity. So here, when the Zen masters, they say that when you are stepping into something insecure, there is actually a security within. And when you're stepping into something secure, there is an insecurity within, which is um, which is um, which is something which you experience only when you step into that uncertainty. If you are not able to step into that uncertainty, you are never going to experience that. So that's when they say that the stage 3 has come, and you might, it is very difficult for a normal crowd or a normal society to accept what I said right now, because for everyone that marriage is secure only when that the legal papers are intact. But something more beautiful bloomed out of it the moment she signed for the divorce. So um, it is like, what we think is, this is the right, or this is wrong, or this is the way, and the other way, the normal things what we see in the normal social setup may not be what actually blooms you from within. For this, you need a lot of courage to step into it. Just sharing things. Okay. When things are out of control. So many of us who are really suffering do not realize that it is because we feel completely out of control. Our biggest triggers are happening there, out of this feeling. Even things we would not face. I don't know what I've written. Okay. For example, people forming negative opinions about us. If someone has made their mind up about us, and we can't change the way they are thinking about us because they can't be reasoned with. What is upsetting us in this situation is that we are completely out of control. So we ask ourselves honestly, what is so bad about being out of control? So when we are put in a particular situation where you feel that, you are not in control, but the other person is in control, you kind of feel very insecure there. This is all well and good if you trust that someone or something, whoever is the other person on the other. If you trust that person completely, or if you trust the process of life completely, yes, there is no issue. But if we keep thinking that I have no control over the situation, I have no control of what is happening, and it kind of makes you feel hurt inside, and you feel very powerless inside. When we feel out of control, we feel powerless. When we try to take action to control from the space of powerlessness, we only wind our way in deeper and deeper into a state of despair and powerlessness. So every time we have to keep in our mind is that whenever we feel things are out of control, we are already in that feeling of powerless state. So that's the vibration we are going to operate from. So when we are going to operate from that low vibrational feeling, what is going to come as an outcome is again low vibrational thing. So what we have to attend is our powerlessness. There is a huge difference between control and an empowerment. And a lot of people think that controlling is power. A lot of people think that control is love. Control and desire to control is an ego. It is the byproduct of fear. It only leads to disempowerment. On the entire opposite side of the vibrational scale is empowerment. So whenever you have a desire to control a situation, always look within. What is underlying that? Empowerment is about finding alignment in any small way that you can, no matter how small or large. So whenever we are faced up with a situation where we have no control over the situation and you feel powerless, the only thing you can do is just observe what is actually going well in your life. So what is actually you have control over, even if it is a very small thing, as I can just clean up my room. So that itself is actually your shifting your focus onto what you can actually do. The vibration shifts over there. Having influence over your own internal world brings about a sense of empowerment, whereby you know that no matter what happens to you, you are not powerless relative to how you feel. Stop focusing on the choices you do not have and focus on the ones that you do have. When we feel powerless, we slip into lack of consciousness. We stop being able to perceive the power and we do have, and the opportunities we do have, and the resources we have. So we fail to see what is actually there when you're in that powerless vibration and you're continuously either blaming the other person or trying to control the other person. So what happens is that it's like, you're shut in a room and, like shut in a prison cell for 10 years, not even realizing that the door isn't locked. It's exactly that. So when we allow ourselves to only focus on what limits us, we do not see the ways we are free. Okay. I don't know if there is something. Yeah. Okay. So if you feel really powerless, things as small as cleaning your bathroom or reorganizing can be enough. That itself will start giving you small energy back, that vibrations back. Of course, the next thing you can do is, of course, you can ask for help. A lot of us have this great ego that, no, I'll handle it myself. I don't need any help. So there is always an opportunity you can ask help from others. We are faced with the opportunity to awaken to a greater depth of spirituality. So even if it is asking help from others or asking from God, you actually receive help. We are becoming connected to something greater than ourselves, because as we are asking the help, there is a mass consciousness or the collective energy that is bigger than us, which actually empowers us. Find out what you're really afraid of in this powerless situation. Often, when we feel totally powerless, it is not the external circumstance that is rendering us powerless, it is ourselves. So, whenever we are in a mode of we have to control the situation, we have to control this other person, or we have to, understand where is this coming from. Go deep within you and look, where is this insecurity coming from? Where is this powerlessness coming from? We are just totally unprepared to face the consequences. So we have become paralyzed. So allow yourself to face the consequences. We are no longer stuck and powerless. Love in any way you can, no matter how small or large. Appreciate anything you are capable of appreciating in your life. Feeling out of control is a state of fear. At all moments of the day, we have a choice between love and fear. The opposite vibration of fear is, in fact, love. This is our first Rising in Love class. I believe you all remember choosing love over fear. This is something we have to practice on a daily basis, each and every small thing we do. The beautiful opportunity that is available to us in a situation we have no control over is that we get to practice the art of total allowing. We will not win the fight against uncertainty by becoming certain. We will not find our stability by trying to make the unstable stable. Instead, our certainty and stability comes from decidedly embracing uncertainty. Embracing uncertainty does not mean that we stop wanting. It does not mean that we stop creating our lives. And it doesn't mean that we stop taking action to create what we want in our lives. What it means is we untangle our intention from our attachment so as to let our attachment go. This is exactly what has happened in the example I gave just before, wherein that lady actually untangled herself from the attachment of marriage. The future is not certain, not for anyone. Even those of us who can see it will tell you that it changes as you go along. This is, we in Theta Healing, of course, we do the future reading and everything. But even if we do that, there are many things which are not certain and it keeps changing. If you change even one perspective, that can alter your entire destiny. So the moment you are going to change your perspective, your awareness, the future is going to change. If we become preoccupied with avoiding pain, We resist the waves at our own peril. We miss the glory of our lives. So embrace the uncertainty of your lives. Send the universe the message, bring it on, and you're going to see a lot of sunsets and sunrises. Okay. So, do you all have any questions in this or any opinions we can discuss over this?
You know how you said like in theta healing we can see the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do that. Yeah. So and then the whole thing you were talking about like uncertainty.
Yeah.
So when we do future reading, we're giving some sort of certainty, right? So doesn't it contradict?
Yeah, it does contradict it. The whole thing is of contradiction only, right? Because in theta healing, we do the future reading for what?
Like to see if anything is like negative, you change it.
Yeah, if there is anything that is coming in your way, which is actually going to hinder your way to that path, we are going to actually
Yeah.
change that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but even when we change that, we never know what is actually way ahead of it. There is an uncertainty there, even though you've cleared the path. You're only clearing the path. For example, we are only clearing if there is a hole on the way, if there is a big pit on the way, we are actually taking another way where there is no pit. But you never know what is the future ahead that. Okay, that is what we are doing in Theta. But of course, little bit of certainty we always try to bring in. It is for our mind to feel safe at that moment of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is
Exactly.
always an uncertainty. There is a way to flow into uncertainty because sometimes we feel that this is the best thing for us, and we start creating that as of our future. This is what it has to happen. It has to happen, and you continuously be in that. But the moment you are very rigid on that, this has to be this way, and whereas you have something better than that ahead. If you're clinging on to this, you miss that opportunity of flowing into that, that uncertain space. So sometimes, even if it is theta healing we are doing, sometimes you have to let go in some situations. So you need to, you of course, when you go up to the creator, you will be guided where to let go, right? So I don't want to bring theta healing into this class. Okay. Anushka,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
I
get
got it.
that?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I have a question, Priya.
Yeah. Who is this?
Um, this is Surabhi.
Surabhi.
So, yeah, in the divorce example that you gave,
Yeah.
but the husband started showing love after a divorce, but isn't it a very conditional love? Like he didn't even talk for 3 years till the divorce papers were not signed.
Yeah.
So it is very conditional. What is the point of such relationships? Even if he shows love, like leave it. I mean, I don't know.
It is not the love thing that is important over there. It is the flow there, because nothing was flowing there. First of all, there was no
Mm-hmm.
flow in the relationship. There was no communication in the relationship, and all she wanted was communication so that she can communicate about her kids with her husband.
Okay.
Okay, she was not looking for love there, but the flow happened only when she let go of that.
Okay.
Okay, experiencing love is something different, of course, but that rigid space actually allowed her to experience something better in life. Maybe she is able to at least flow with that. That relationship itself is, it doesn't have a name now. So
Okay.
you never know how it is going to move forward. But that opening happened over there because until that time, she is also feeling this closed feeling of, no communication, no way of connecting and everything. Of course, this isn't the highest and best, I wouldn't say, but I'm saying that there are situations wherein, you become so rigid that you don't allow things to flow. Maybe something else will happen in her life. Maybe she may fall in love with somebody else. Maybe something else better will come into her life. You never know. But at that moment, she has been holding on to that um, what rigid space that I will not give a divorce was not helping her nor him, right? So
Fine.
it is not easy to step into that uncertainty space and just go for that, and that flow happened. Anything can happen after that. Maybe love can happen, maybe hatred can happen. Never know, but there is a flow. Instead of being in that stuck space. That's what I meant.
Can I share one thing?
Yeah, yeah.
According to Surabhi's question, with that one thing very interesting come is she talk about condition. It's a conditional love. So what in this example, what I understand is what that person that she could able to unconditional herself through accepting or through allowing the situation. So the moment she become unconditional, what happens? She becomes the love. So she don't need any love from outside. She is love. So according to Rumi's example, what is love means? Love is unconditional. The moment we become unconditional, we become the love. So that's an experience come to her. That's what I understand. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So Rupesh sir, this is a very good insight, but I have another question that, like you are saying you become unconditional, but sometimes people take advantage. They put a lot of conditions one after another. You meet one, another comes up. You meet another, then third one comes up. What is the difference, or how can we differentiate, like whether are we adjusting or are we giving unconditional love or becoming
No,
love?
I'm not saying we are giving anything. I'm just saying that we become unconditional to ourselves. I'm not saying we have become unconditional to others. That space is that in that example, she is so rigid to themselves. She is so rigid that I'm not giving anything. That's a rigid space to her own self. She's stopping her own flow, not others' flow. So what she is experiencing is what I'm sharing. She becomes
Okay.
unconditional. Okay.
Okay.
Preeti, can I add something?
Yeah.
From what Surabhi asked, how do you differentiate between staying unconditional and being taken for granted? I think that's what she asked, right? How do you know you're being unconditional when somebody's, I think when you're unconditional, you
Yes.
don't get frustrated. That's the main difference. You don't really think I'm being unconditional. I'm being unconditional. It doesn't, you're not consciously being unconditional. So there's no frustration there. The moment you're getting frustration and you feel that, oh, this is a second condition, this is a third condition, that means you're not unconditional. I think that's the main difference. When you're unconditional, you are not really feeling it. It just flows, like Sir said and Priyaji said, it flows naturally. When the frustration comes, you are in a conditional space.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Actually, what she shared was that when she was signing the paper, her heart space actually expanded. This is something we all can look into, and I think Rupesh sir class, whoever has attended, what is exactly observing your heart space expanding when you are actually doing few things. And that expansion is something what we are here for, right? Okay, so now we'll go into meditation. Ready?
Yes.
Everybody sit in a comfortable position. Somebody is lying down, that's also fine. Don't sleep. Sit in a place where you feel very safe, where you can relax. And allow yourself to keep your backbone straight, aligning with your neck and head, as though something is pulling you from above. Gently close your eyes. Allow yourself to be with your breath. Gently taking a deep breath in through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. Now inhale with me as you raise your shoulders up towards your ears and exhale as you roll them back, pushing your chest outwards. As you're doing this, you're opening your heart. Let's do it one more time. Inhale, raise your shoulders up, and exhale as you roll your shoulders down, opening your heart. Once more, take a deep breath in and inhale, raising your shoulders up and round your shoulders down, allowing yourself to open your heart. Now just be with your normal breath. If you are present here in this meditation, means you are here to let go of your need to control. You are ready to embrace more flow into your life. You are allowing yourself to grow from within. So appreciate yourself for being here in this space. You deserve this time with yourself to connect with yourself. Release whatever is holding you back. Let us practice a simple breathing pattern. Breathing in for 6 counts or 6 seconds and holding for 2 and again exhaling for another 6 counts. So inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold 1, 2. Breathing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold 1, 2. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold 1, 2. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Continue breathing normally. everyone feels that we feel safe being able to control everything. Today, let us reflect upon the thought, what would happen if you were always in control? Imagine a life with no uncertainty, no discomfort, no surprises. A life where everything went as planned. You're always in control. Just reflect and observe whatever is coming to you. Whether you can get a clarity or not, what will happen is that there will be less growth, less development, less expansion. We are here as a spirit wanting a human experience. So we have come to earth to grow and expand. So allow yourself to be with your breath. And as you're breathing in and breathing out, observe what is your real need or fear beneath the need to control. What will happen if you let go of the need to control? What is the worst thing that can happen if you let go of the need to control? Imagine you are an artist exploring this insecurities or the feeling of unsafe if you are not able to control. And if you were to draw a line around these insecurities and unsafe feeling, where does the line start and where does it end? Is the line inside you or on your body? How far inside you does it go? Allow this line to transform into an image, whatever comes to you. Just be with the image. Notice the image. Sit with it. Observe, is this image moving? Is there any emotions with it? Focus on the uncertainty it has brought. Breathe into it. Allow it to surround the image. Allow your breath to interact with it. Relax the muscles around it. Don't judge it, just let it remain. Don't try to get rid of your reaction to the uncertainty. Just allow yourself to understand that it is there. Accept it. Accept that you are controlling and judging because of this insecurity within you. If any memory opens up with it, allow yourself to go into that memory and understand what it is trying to communicate to you. Having this insecurity, what did you learn in your life? Once you understand and you have a realization, affirm to yourself in your mind, I am growing. Accept that you cannot control the world, but you can control how you react to it. Tell yourself, I am ready to let go of the need to control, knowing that it is safe to do so. Bringing this awareness, allow yourself to take another deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 1, 2. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Allow yourself to breathe in, inhale. Inhale the courage to face uncertainties. And hold. And exhale the need to control. Let it go. Again, take a deep breath in, inhale. Inhale the courage to face uncertainties. Hold. And exhale. Exhale the need to control. Just allow yourself to be with your breath. As you inhale, make yourself aware that when you allow yourself to flow without control, you experience a beautiful vibration within you. Observe where you're feeling this vibration in your body. Just expand this vibration, breathing into that space. Allow it to spread throughout your body. Feel it, sense it, know it, expanding into your being. The flow of love radiating within you. As you're doing this, you're tapping into your true powers, allowing yourself to grow and expand, vibrating in a higher frequency. As you take a deep breath in, allow this vibration to spread into your aura. Take another deep breath in and let this expand into your whole of the room you're sitting in. Whenever you are faced with a challenge, allow yourself to go back into your breath and observe your own feelings and understand from within and tap into this beautiful vibration of love pulsating within you. With this awareness that you are a powerful being within, without the need to control anything outside you. You are able to bring in the vibration you need at all times. Allow yourself to gently move your toes and fingers. Rub your hands together. Place it on your eyes and open your eyes. So, how many of y'all could find out what was your real need to control? Okay. Anybody wants to share any experience?
Not the like. I have a question. When you said the whole, the artist can draw a line. Yeah. So it wasn't a line. It was like a circle for me, and it wasn't in me. It was outside. It's like someone drew it outside. So I didn't know what that meant. It was just outside. Like nothing was there inside.
Nothing was there inside. Okay.
Yeah.
And a circle outside of you. That was the, what was that we did was, that was the insecurity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what insecurity is outside you right now in your life?
I mean, that the whole point was to find out the fear, yeah, the underlying fear.
Yeah, yeah. Need not be fear. It could be an insecurity also. So, because you saw it outside, I'm asking you what insecurity you face outside right now in your life.
Just what I got was like the family thing.
Family thing.
Yeah, like I don't like sometimes like very different from the family. Yeah? So that was the thing, the need to control for me.
Because you are different from the family, you feel
Like,
unaccepted.
I feel what?
What do you feel? What is the insecurity there?
Scared was one.
Yeah, what are you scared of?
Like I'll become like them. I don't want to become like them. That
The
was
fear
the
is that you will become like them.
yeah.
Now you know what to work on. Anybody else?
It is not the experience that I want to share, but I have a question though. You said when you are in a situation where you don't have any control, concentrate on the small things like cleaning the room and etc. That is again you are asking to do something which you have total control of, right? Again, we are going into that vicious cycle itself of controlling, right?
That
Or
is,
is it something?
yeah, that is just to shift the vibration. Because when you
Okay.
feel very powerless and you feel that you have no grip for anything anywhere, it is just to bring back that power that you are looking into what you already can do.
Okay.
Or else what you're going to do is you're going to fight with the other always. So to stop that, you shift your focus onto something which you can, where there is power inside, so that you can expand from there.
But then again, when go back to the other situation, I will try to control that. Controlling thing will still be there, or it won't be.
That's why we did this meditation. That was what I said in the class. But in the meditation, what we did was, um, what is the need in that particular situation for you to control? What is the underlying problem there? Actually, you are going to control there because you feel powerless. So,
Right.
what is beneath that? So, something would have come up if at all it has come up.
It has. Yeah, I'm still doing an analysis. I'm not ready to talk out. That's why. Yeah. There is, yeah. It was a total shock to me what I have realized. I think I have an ugly image inside, and people will realize what I am. People will realize that I am a failure. That is the fear that and because of all the controlling, I'm making a mess out of my life itself.
Okay, once
Yeah.
you realize you can shift that. It's just you're judging yourself right now. You're having fear that others will also judge you. So we can change all that. Once you are aware of this, it's easy to address the problem.
When you said asked to analyze situations where it is in total control means I could see many people who has like total control of their life, but their life is so boring. That is the that is the image that came to me. So many, or 5, 6 different people. Not these people, it is couples actually came in. One being my in-laws itself, they both are government employees, retired government employees. Their life is like
Set.
flowing steadily for the, I think for the last 30 years, I have not seen any change. Yeah.
I think a lot of people in this group is very adventurous who actually steps into a lot of uncertainties. You can
Right,
see many
right.
faces. I'm not taking names. All those people are smiling. Anyway.
I think people who have come to UAE itself are adventurous, I think. Life is not easy. Yeah.
Hi, Jishi, Naina here.
Yeah.
Actually, I used to. It was a kind of realization. In most of my life decisions, what I have dive into is like most uncertain situation, and people used to ask me like, why can't you go for a like safe safe decision? Why you want to experience that? But 50% of me want to have a very adventurous life, to experience the uncertainty. And I also in my mind itself, I have a play like, I am very scared of uncertainty, I want to have a very certain life. So it was something like a 50-50 kind of play
That's
in
okay.
my
Okay to be
mind
scared.
itself. Yeah, but now I got more clarity about it. So I was like, because of the social conditioning and all, we were looking for always looking for a safe side. So now I realize that it's okay. It's perfectly okay.
You acknowledge, the people around you also acknowledges.
Yes.
The moment you don't acknowledge it and you're jumping into all those, everybody around you will like, point finger, ask questions,
Yeah.
and all that. Moment
Yeah,
you
because
acknowledge
in my
that,
mind itself, it was like a 50-50 game. So now I got it. Why others are pointing into it. Yes.
okay. Anybody else want to say something? No more experiences? No more questions? There are a lot of people here who can
I
answer.
also have question. In the initially you mentioned like in marriage, and it's relating to control. So if it's like that, then where is love in it?
I know you don't experience love when there is control. I think we discussed this in the first class. I don't remember which class. Okay. When there is control, the person doesn't experience love at all because you're taking away the other person's freedom. When there is no freedom, there is no love.
So now the whole institution of marriage is fully into conditioning and
That's
expectation.
why this age, children they say they don't want to get married. It's a stupid institution, they say, because they understand all the ugly side of it. Because they all love to experiment love, flow in love. They are more evolved. The children born in this era.
But it's not marriage alone that doesn't have a flow, right? It is basically, I think, the conditioning that we go through our lives, the way we are brought up, everything is a conditioning. So, for example, I remember, I used to have very short hair when I was in Dubai. When I had to come down, Amma started saying, you have to grow your hair. Girls have to grow hair. Girls have to sit like this. Girls shouldn't laugh loud. Girls should sit. It's a lot of conditioning you go through. So in each phase of it, I think you lose a bit of yourself. Each time you're conditioned, I think you lose yourself a lot. And again with marriage, again you lose yourself a lot. Becoming a mother, you lose yourself a lot again. They are like, okay, as a mother you should be doing this, you should be doing that. A lot of expectations come and you try to reach out to it. And like you said, it's a lot of uncertainty you face. And from the society coming in, especially even I like, though my husband is here, he's not here with me right now, so I take care of my son on my own. So the uncertainty of being judged, the fear of being judged rather, that is what I think I fear, or that is the uncertainty that I felt going through this session. It's not only now, I think throughout that is a fear that has been there. The uncertainty of being judged, uncertainty of, being different. So that is what I feel.
Actually, I've seen you face it very nicely because I've seen you do things which you really wanted to do, whatever the society or parents or whoever says. Being a rebel. But
No, I think now because I'm being like this, Amma was like, okay, you're going to be like a Sanjari, do what you want. So that is the name I've got now. They're like, no, you settle here. I said, no, I'm not comfortable with this place. No, you be here. I said, no, I'm not comfortable with that place. So they're like, me in the Sanjari Avambohana was the ultimate thing that I got from them. I don't know. Let's see.
You, whenever you are doing that, you accept yourself doing that, they will also accept. When you doubt yourself, only they are also doubting. That's the first thing we spoke of. Why other people judge you is your own doubt they are saying.
True. So that's the experience I felt through the session, and the thoughts that have been going through this session.
Okay. Anybody else want to say something? Somi, Yanamai, anybody wants to say?
I see things totally different, Priya.
Yeah, you can
That's why
say
I'm
whatever it is, you can say. Here, everybody is receptive to anything. You can just say.
okay. Then I will see. First, I saw a face of this Kathakali, then the all lot of green painting and all. Is it Kathakali? That face is with full of green and
Yeah, that is
I
it.
don't know.
Yeah.
And these are all comes within seconds. Then suddenly it went to Ayyappan. The way he was sitting, no. So then I started searching who will come. Nothing came. After long time, that Narasimha's face came. Now that I could see that face. Then it changes to Hanuman. Then I thought, why all these space things are coming? But finally, what happened was, it was full of, when you started finishing, then pink color with a lot of light, it came. That is the one thing that took time to go. Other things just comes and goes. So these are the things. This is what I told. Everything strange only. No,
No, it all
another
has
thing.
meaning for you.
No, there is another thing. When I do this meditation, here I see the things. Every day I do, but I don't see anything. So maybe this group has got some, not maybe, definitely it has got a lot of energy. That's why. Otherwise, when I do alone, I don't see anything.
Yeah, the group energy of meditation. That's why we always say do the live meditation, not the recorded version.
So these things, now I told, now you tell me, Rupesh, what it means. Any meaning to see all these things?
Actually, it's you need to interpret, because
Yes,
what
I
is
want interpretation.
what is Kathakali for you, what is Hanuman for you, what is Narasimha for you. So first you write down everything, what it is for you. So through that, once you write down, then you can understand what it means for you.
For me,
There is no,
Kathakali,
for you, what is Kathakali for you? Because when you saw the Kathakali, or when you saw that
I saw
image,
the face.
what sort of feelings coming to you? What is inside is coming? What is your inner feeling when you are seeing that image? Even when we saw Hanuman, there is some feeling coming from inside. Even the Narasimha come, there is some feeling coming. First, we need to understand that. It's no need to push it. You slowly later, you just meditate on that each and every figure once more. Then you can understand what it is meant for you.
For the time being, I didn't understand. I wanted to see them.
That's
But
because it come and go very quickly. That's why we don't understand it. But later when we take it each and everything and slowly meditate upon each and everything, we can understand what it meant for your consciousness. What is for you? That is very important. Okay. So there is no such general interpretation is there. General interpretation is always lead to meaninglessness. So better thing is we need to interpret because it is for your consciousness. Okay.
Thank you.
It's like when we see any
while doing meditation.
Yes, somebody said something?
Yeah, Shalini here.
Yeah.
I was asking. So whenever we have these visions while doing meditations, do we have to make a note of it and, like you said, later on analyze that, or it is like a wish every day when I'm doing meditation, I get lots of visions like this, but I don't make a note of it. Should I be doing that?
Yeah, it's better because journalizing our meditation experience will enrich that experience and give more meaning to that experience. It's not need to analyze from our logical mind. We need to open it and more meditate upon that, so that our inner interpretation will open. Okay.
Okay.
Like today, like when I was going into it on a deeper level, like when she said, first I saw something blue rolling. It kept rolling. I don't know how to interpret of that. And the same way, after some time, I felt a yellow eyes. I could see a kind of a yellow eyes opening, and I got drawn into the eyes actually. So I don't know how to interpret that or what that means, or I couldn't make any sense interpreting that. I was trying to focus on what she was trying to say as to, what the insecurity is or what that is. I was focusing on that, but I was going through this. Even the initial meditation, I could feel a yellow eyes opening up. I don't know why I felt a yellow eyes opening up today. So, and I did see something blue rolling. It was the blue thing rolling first and then the yellow eyes opening up. So I don't know.
Now what sir said was that you meditate on that, so that will open up to you. So you will understand it in a deeper way. Don't leave it, okay? Because it has some significance. So anybody else, anything more? Or we'll wrap up and we'll see tomorrow.
By saying you meditate upon that, that means you ask that question to the universe and then you go into deep meditation, right? Like if you keep on thinking about that, it's not meditation, right?
Yeah, you can actually give intention. Yeah, sir, saying something. Sir, you were saying something.
Yeah, Sumita, it's like, for example, Preeti said about this yellow eye, so that you can feel that yellow eye and breathe through that yellow eye. You can feel that yellow eye like a door. So you open that door. It's like a portal. You reach to the other end. You can work it like a portal. That's what I mean by meditating upon that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Not thinking about that. Just the door. Once you open the door, you enter into the other side. Okay. So you reach to the another experience.
Okay. I think in my meditation, I think I haven't reached to state of vision or anything. Either I'll have a thought or I'll have that, I'll go to like completely a blank state. When I come back, I don't know where I came from. So I was wondering, okay, maybe to get into the vision state.
Yeah, blank state is also a beautiful state.
I remember your conversation that like you had, we were discussing about various states. In one of the classes you mentioned about for some time, you never had anything. It's just existence. So I always think about that and kind of embrace those days of meditation, that you don't have nothing, but that itself is a beautiful experience. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we'll wind up for today. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay.
Grateful to all of you. Grateful to all the energies who supported us.
Thank you so much, Priya. Thank you, Priya.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so much,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Priya.